Victorious Buddhas, compassionate ones, throughout the infinite worlds of the 10 directions, grant your blessings so that the inner and outer work that I accomplished today bears the fruits that multiply beyond imagining to benefit myself, the ones I love, and the countless other beings of the six realms.
Right, and we may now sit. Welcome everybody. Today it's gonna be sort of a strange day because we have people here that are brand new, which I'm excited to get to know. But it is also the last lecture of our book. So, as you know, almost exactly 1 year ago, this Sangha started with 4 members. Now we have 271 members on Discord and another 200 on Facebook, um, which is great. But it also means that we've been together often, that we've discussed a bunch of things, and that the new people that we are welcoming today do not have that background. So I'm going to sort of try and jump back and forth a little bit. So to give some very basic background about Buddhism as we begin. And after that, going to dive into our lecture, which is not very complicated. Today, we're going to talk about some historical figures of Buddhism that are almost the equivalent of saints in other traditions. So people that did extraordinary things in the name of the Dharma. And it sort of carries a little lesson. I think it's 5 or 6 total. So we will review those lessons together. So just to demystify a little bit, you've been lining up to the sound of the wooden han. In a monastery, this is used not only to call people to the monastery and talking a Zen monastery. It's also used to call people to meals, to call people when it's time to wash the environment. Since monks do not carry watches, that is sort of how there's somebody is in charge of that, who's looking at the clock and is calling people when the shifts change. So that is how sort of discipline is maintained in the monastery. We do that, yes, for a bit of role playing, but also to get in a mental space before we begin our session. So by making a little bit of silence, by paying our respect to the Buddha, we are sort of preparing ourselves to have a peaceful, quiet experience together. Now, people that look at this externally might think that this is some kind of worship. It's not the case. There are no gods and goddesses in Buddhism. Buddha was just a guy. However, he was a very important guy that taught humanity very important lessons that help us enjoy more happiness and less suffering. And it is when we pay our respect, we are sort of mindfully acknowledging that it originated from him and that we should come back to the root when in doubt. It's also one of the jewels in Buddhism. So you have the Buddha. Buddha is a title. It means the enlightened one. His name was actually Siddhartha Gautama. So Buddha was his title. And the other jewels would be the Sangha, which is us, which is another place where you can take refuge. So you can take refuge in the teacher, you can take refuge in your fellowship, and you can take refuge in the teaching itself or in truth itself, which the name for that is Dharma. So the Buddha teaches Dharma, teaches the truth of life. So Buddhism is a philosophical system. It's called Buddhism because it comes from the Buddha, just like Confucianism comes from the guy Confucius, or Platonism comes from Platon. it's called a religion. However, it's more like an ancient psychology, ancient mind science. So that's sort of Buddhism 101. And now we're going to practice a little bit of meditation, as we always do together. So this is going to be a shamatha, or calm abiding meditation, or one-pointed meditation. It has many. It's known by many other names. The translation is not very consistent. But the idea of this mindfulness meditation is to flex a muscle. It is to train a muscle. People often think that meditation is for relaxation and stress relief. It's not actually the case, although it has this wonderful side effect of making us calmer. The real purpose of meditation is to sort of cut the stimuli, sort of cut the senses, so that you can become more and more aware of what's going on inside. So by sitting without moving, you lose the stimulus of touch. By almost closing your eyes, you lose visual stimulation. By doing that in a quiet environment or with calming music, you do not overstimulate your hearing as well. Oftentimes people will light incense, so that way even your sense of smell is not challenged. Everything is peaceful and harmonious. And the reason for that is that imagine trying to meditate or to look inside your most intimate thoughts, sitting next to a plane that's about to take off, or to a construction jack drill, and you can see it would be very difficult. The other reason is that you probably notice when you go at night to sleep that when it's very dark in your house, all the sounds seem to sort of amplify. If there's a little crack or a little something, you hear it from very far and immediately, and it feels loud. Same thing if there's just a tiny little bit of light, you perceive it almost as if it was daylight. And that's because when you're not using all of your senses at the same time, it creates more real estate in your brain to process those that are active. So that's why you will often find blind people that are very gifted musically, is that their brain was reprogrammed to use the auditory centers of the visual centers of the brain for auditory purposes. So meditation is sort of like that. We are shutting off everything so that we can have a good look at how we feel and how we think. Why is that important? Simply because we never do it. We live in a crazy time. It's a crazy society. And we can go for hours, days, weeks, and months at a time without really noticing that we are stressed, we are troubled, we are sad. Okay? So meditation and this refuge of practice becomes a way of connecting with how you really feel about everything. And as you start noticing it, the solutions start appearing in your life so that you live a better, more balanced, and happy life. So, without further ado, we will go to meditation, and we'll start with a little posture check. It's actually called the seven points of meditation posture, and I will sort of narrate it, and will include those 7 points in what I'm going to. So let's start with a deep breath, everybody. Let's reach really deep. We can make that 3 times just to make sure we disconnect very well. I take it that for most of you, it's now like night. Most of you are from Europe, I guess. So maybe you've been at work all day, so take a moment to leave all that behind. or does not exist anymore. We're just here to seclude ourselves a little bit. Well, and let's start by sort of scanning our body. So you can start bringing your attention to the tip of your head, and sort of as if there was a beam lowering slowly on your body. Make sure that your scalp is relaxed, your forehead, and then your eyebrows. The eyes are very important nowadays because we use a lot of screens, and that creates tension and it tires us. So make sure that your lids are falling naturally. You can close them all the way or close them 3/4 of the way if you prefer. Just make sure they are relaxed on the entire area around the eye sockets. Release any tension there that you notice. Same thing towards the back. Any tension around the ears you should release. And then your cheeks, jaw. Don't clench your teeth together. They should be separated a little bit while your lips are touching. If you don't know what to do with your tongue, just press it gently against your palate. That fall asleep during meditation or go into a very deep session will actually prevent drooling and distraction. The most important thing about the posture, though, is aligning your head with your neck and your back. So you want to sit straight so that your spine is supporting you without creating any tension or torsions. So one little trick that I use is you can balance yourself back and forth a little bit and let your body fall in place naturally. And then you can do it sideways as well. Once you've done it backward, forward, sideways, you should be pretty much at the center. Your glance should be pointed at about a 45 degrees angle towards the floor in front of you. And then you will want to make sure that you release the tensions in your upper neck, lower shoulders. The arms should rest inside of on your thighs. There we go. And also put your hands on your knees. The idea is to not create any tension in the chest. The chest needs to remain soft and the upper back as well. So that's sort of a good measure of distance for the arms. Fingers can be let loose, relax them as well to the tip of the finger, the hands, arms. Scan along your spine, releasing tension there. Lower back flow. I like to pause a little bit and notice the beating heart and the energy about it. This is what's keeping us alive every moment. So it's good to feel a little bit that we are alive and that there is something there working for us constantly that we barely notice. You can relax your flanks, belly areas, thighs, calves. Then relax your feet and toes. And now let's imagine that we are taking a very warm shower. So hot water is falling on top of your head and enveloping your body, making you feel calm and warm and a little bit heavier maybe. And as you focus on this sensation, you will let the boundaries of your body sort of dissolve into nothingness. And you will bring your attention to the. It's very simple. We just follow the breath with the mind. You don't have to breathe harder, softer, just naturally. And the idea is to simply notice that you are breathing. there's a little catch. Your mind will wander. Your mind will want to play with your controls, will want to check your phone, will want to go back to the day's work, any kind of things. So when you see that happening, it's all right. Your, your mind is out of control because you have not been practicing regularly. So simply bring back the mind to the like a good master, very gently. If thinking has been distracting you, you can name thinking. If it's a itch, you can ignore the itch. Just look at it until it subsides. Call it itching and come back. Experiencing an impulse, you desire, for example, to look at your phone. That's feeling. Just name it and go to it. Every time you do, it's like doing a curl with a dumbbell. You are making your mind stronger. You are connecting deeper with what is going on within, and you're getting point with your true nature. So let us just follow the breath till the little bell rings again. As you follow your breath, try and catch a glimpse of your fundamental mind. Try and see if you can perceive the ocean that your mind is, and see if you could start identifying the thoughts and the feeling like waves in the ocean that come in all the go deeper in your meditation. Like say, well, I guess that rang immediately after. So that's it for our initial 10 minutes. How did you guys feel? Who meditated
Good.
for the first time here today? You, baked potato? Did you manage to relax a little bit? So I I guess you could. Thank you for indulging me in this little guided meditation. We will do another 10 minutes towards the end of the session, and this one will be silent. So now you know the instruction for shamatha meditation. You can apply them again. Basically, follow your breath. Um, for some people, it's difficult to do with the breath because, let's say, they have a respiratory
Okay.
problem.
Oh, sorry.
If that's your case, you don't have to practice with the breath. You could pick anything. Yes, Vic? Did you raise your hand, baked potato? I see you moving, but I can't hear you, so uh, thank you. Yeah, so basically, you could use anything. It could be a pebble on the floor that you bring your attention to, and you try to concentrate on that. And whenever the mind wanders away, you bring your mind back to the pebble. The reason we use the breath is that it's actually like Pavlovian conditioning. The breath is always with you, and it goes on like every second. So if you associate that to relaxation and to being in control, after practicing for a lot of hours, it starts happening naturally in your daily life. But the discipline of bringing the mind back to your peace and to a state that you like is good no matter what you practice with. All right. That was, I guess, Shamatha 101. Yes, Cyril? You want to say
Yeah,
something?
I was just gonna say some people like to count, and some people also like to those or the. Well, I used to use Bodhi balls, but then there's the meditation beads. Like those things are sometimes helpful. Have that
Yes,
sensation of like going over every bead,
that is
or the
true. I
charm of
have
the
my
ball.
mala beads, and when you get into non-conceptual meditation, it might become difficult to stay awake. So
Yeah, yeah, no
when I got
doubt.
into that when I got into that phase, the mala beads helped me a lot because playing with something physical in my hand was sort of stimulus enough to keep me, let's say, interested in the world. And yeah, the way you use that is every time you exhale, you would push a bead, or you could be citing a mantra in your mind. And so, yes, there are many bits of external support like this that you can use as well. If you're interested in them, I guess you can talk with Cyril or with me about it. Yes, Disco.
And what's the non-conceptual meditation?
It's when you realize emptiness and you realize the idea of oneness in the universe, and therefore there is no more black and white, only gray, and there is no object and subject, and you sort of meditate without attaching yourself to anything. So, spoiler alert, it's very boring to meditate on nothing at all. And that's why a lot of monks, when they get there, they start sleeping quite a bit. In any monastery, you will find a number of monks that are snoring, actually, and that's the culprit. That's why they ring a little bell regularly, like every minute during meditation session in Tibetan Buddhism. It's sort of a call to bring back your sharpness. In Zen Buddhism, they hit you with a stick for the same purpose. Actually. Zen meditation or Zazen is extremely non-conceptual. They have you look at a white wall and focus uniquely on your posture. So the only thing you're doing is literally sitting. That's the entire meditation practice in Zen. You don't follow breath, you don't do anything, you just sit. And that's a very good one to fall asleep as well. So well, if you, that's a big discussion because emptiness is sort of one of the goals of Buddhism. But we will go back to that, I guess, in a few sessions. Yes, Cyril?
I just wanted to say, when you do that kind of meditation, it is very interesting when you're kind of trying to do that in your daytime, like normal life, because it's supposed to also help you with your mindset and like day to day. But it's interesting. It's an experience. I
True.
don't know.
And that's the thing. That's the thing with Buddhism. There is no faith involved, nor blind belief. You basically get to experience whatever you believe in yourself firsthand. So if it doesn't work for you, you can consider it doesn't exist. But if you try it and you get awesome results, then you know it to be true. And that's sort of how we move forward in the path.
But I
All right, that
guess
being
I
said,
guess that you can't do non-conceptual meditation, for example, everywhere in daily life. Like when you're driving a car, you don't want to go all emptiness-like and suddenly fly off the road. I assume.
well, just because you're not attaching concepts doesn't mean like your intelligence completely stops operating. There is a level that is subconscious that is still there. But if you want to practice that easily, to have let's say, a taste of it, you could try and open your eyes very wide, open them very, very wide and start looking around you, and you will see, I don't know, a door, a floor, a mirror, or if you're outside, it could be a tree, a park. But refrain from putting names on everything, and refrain from deciding if it's beautiful or ugly, if it's desirable or not. So just look at everything as if your eyes are kissing the things and moving away. And you can go and at the same time open your ears very wide and open your sense of smell very wide. And what it does is you will sensory overload yourself, and there won't be any mental space left for judgment and conceptualization. So it gives you a sense that you still understand the world and what you're looking at, but it's like you're not spending any time on any of those concepts. It's very close to that the state that we're for. And because you're not conceptualizing and not judging, then nothing can trigger you. Nothing can scare you. Nothing can surprise you. You're in the world, but not of the world. Is an expression that is often used to describe the so yeah. Um, Julia, would you like to read for us today? Do you know which chapter we're at?
Yeah, we are at the end.
Yeah, I forgot the title of it. Just a second.
It's called Those Who Have Received Glory in Buddha's Land.
Absolutely. Yes. So whenever you.
Sorry, but just before we begin, maybe you could call out the page number?
238 in the teaching of Buddha.
Yeah.
Are you going from the Dharma?
Yeah, it's sutras, but as put together by the I don't remember the name of the. It's a foundation in Japan.
Bukkyo Dendo Kyokai.
Exactly, Bukkyo Dendo Kyokai. Put a sort of a monk's training from A to Z. So I used that in the last year as a good introduction. But awesome if you have memorized some of the sutras. That's very helpful. Yeah. Oh, on top of it, you did. Was that Pali? I didn't hear well.
Korean, Passion Drawn.
Oh yeah. Okay. Wow. So definitely don't know them myself in Korean. All right. So let's read this little text for today, Julia, and then we can have a discussion about it.
Number 1. Sivamati, the consort of King Udayana, was deeply devoted to Buddha. She lived in the innermost courts of the palace and did not go out, but her maid, Uttara, who had an excellent memory, used to go out and attend the Buddha's preachings. On her return, the maid would repeat to the queen the teaching of the Blessed One, and thus the queen deepened her wisdom and faith. The second wife of the king was jealous of the first wife and sought to kill her. She slandered her to the king until finally he believed her and sought to kill his first wife, Sivamati, Queen Sivamati stood in front of the king so calmly that he had no heart to kill her. Regaining control of himself, he apologized to her for his distrust. The jealousy of the second wife increased, and she sent wicked men to set fire to the innermost courts of the palace during the king's absence from home. Sivamati remained calm, quieted and encouraged but bewildered males, and then, without fear, died peacefully in the spirit she had learned from the Blessed One. Uttara died with her in the fire. Among the many women disciples of Buddha, these two were most highly honored: Queen Sivamati as a compassionate spirit, and her maid Uttara as a good listener. 2. Prince Mahanama of the Sakya clan and cousin of Buddha had great faith in the teachings of Buddha and was one of his most faithful followers. At that time, a violent king named Vidudaka of Kosala conquered the Shaka clan. Prince Mahanama went to the king and sought the lives of his people, but the king would not listen to him. He then proposed that the king would let as many prisoners escape as could run away, while he himself remained underwater in a nearby pond. To this, the king asserted, thinking that the time would be very short for him to be able to stay underwater. The gate of the castle was opened as Mahanama dived into the water, and the people rushed for safety. But Mahanama did not come up, sacrificing his life for the lives of his people by tying his hair to the underwater root of a willow tree. 3. Utpalavarna was a famous nun whose wisdom was compared with that of Mogdhalayana, the great disciple of Buddha. She was indeed the nun of all nuns, and was always their leader, never tiring of teaching them. Devadatta was a very wicked and cruel man who poisoned the mind of King Ajatasattu and persuaded him to turn against the teachings of Buddha. But later, King Ajatasattu repented, broke off his friendship with Devadatta, and became a humble disciple of Buddha. At one time, when Devadatta was repulsed from the castle gate in an attempt to see the king, he met Utpalavarna coming out. It made him very angry, so he struck and seriously wounded her. She returned to her convent in great pain, and when the other nuns tried to console her, she said to them, "Sisters, human life is the unforeseen. Everything is transient and egoless. Only the world of enlightenment is tranquil and peaceful. You must keep on with your training." Then she passed away quietly. 4. Angulimalya, once a terrible bandit who had killed many people, was saved by the Blessed One, and he became one of his disciples. One day, he went begging in a town and endured much hardship and suffering for his past evil deeds. The villagers fell upon him and beat him severely, but he went back to the Blessed One with his body still bleeding, falling at his feet and thanking him for the opportunity that had come to him to suffer for his former cruel deeds. He said, "Blessed One, my name originally was No Harming, but because of my ignorance I took many precious lives, and from each I took a finger. Because of that I came to be called Angulimalya, the collector of fingers. Then, through your compassion, I learned wisdom and became devoted to the three treasures of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. When a man drives a horse or a cow, he has to use a whip or a rope, but you, the Blessed One, purified my mind without the use of whip or rope or hook. Today, Blessed One, I have suffered only what was my due. I do not wish to live, I do not wish to die, I only wait for my time to come." 5th. Moggallana, together with the Venerable Sariputra, was one of the Buddha's two greatest disciples. When the teachers of other religions saw that the pure water of the Buddha's teachings was spreading among the people and found the people eagerly drinking it, they became jealous and applied various hindrances to his preaching. But none of the hindrances could stop or prevent his teaching from spreading widely. The followers of the other religions attempted to kill Moggallana. Twice he escaped, but the third time he was surrounded by many heathens and fell under the blows. Sustained by enlightenment, he calmly received their blows, and though his flesh was torn and his bones crushed, he died peacefully. And that's the end.
Thank you. Tell me, do you have in the printed book at the next page the Anguttara Nikaya?
No, then you have only references for each of the teachings.
Okay, so I'll read that as a compliment. It's not very deep, but I think it tops it up very well. So the Anguttara Nikaya says, monks,
sorry,
there is
everyone.
one person.
I'm not gonna go to sleep now. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm real
okay.
tired.
Okay, I see.
Sorry.
See you later, Jared.
Again.
It's okay.
Oh, did you fall asleep during meditation, Jared?
No, I didn't. Once.
Okay, but then go do that.
Yeah, I'm getting real tired.
I need to get you the beats next time.
No more excuses.
Well,
Good man.
namaste. And I love
Take
all
care.
of you. You're amazing. Thank you all for being my friend. Good
Back to
night.
you.
No, I guess to be.
All right. So the Anguttara Nikaya says, monks, there is one person whose birth into the world is for the welfare of many, for the happiness of many, who is born out of compassion for the world, for the profit, welfare, and happiness of heavenly beings and mankind. Who is that person? It is a Tathagata, who is an Arhat, a fully enlightened one. This, monks, is that one. For those that don't know, Tathagata means sort of the one that is beyond manifestation, that is beyond coming and going. So it's sort of referring to that. The book carries on. Monks, the manifestation of one person is hard to find in the world. Of what person? Of a Tathagata, who is an Arhat, a fully enlightened one. He is the one person. And monks, hard to be found in the world is that one extraordinary person. What person? A Tathagata is an Arhat, a fool. He is the one person. Monks, the death of one person is to be regretted by all. Of what person? Of a Tathagata, who is an Arhat, a fully enlightened. He is the one person. Monks, there is one person born in the world who is incomparable and unequal. Who is that person? It is Tathagata, a fully enlightened. He is the one. Finally, monks, the manifestation of one person is the manifestation of a mighty eye, a mighty light, a mighty radiance. Of what person? Of a Tathagata, who is an Arhat, a fully enlightened. Is the one person. So why they put that there in that new edition is probably as a way to say that those sort of saints, Sivamati, Prince Mahanama, Utpalavana, Anguli Malya, and Moggallana that we have seen are all probably Arhats or people that had achieved high degree realization. However, it insists that the fully enlightened one is extremely rare. And that's what the Buddha is supposed to have achieved. And here's the deal for those that get confused by this. When you wake up, when you experience an awakening, it's just like waking up in real life. You are opening your eyes. It doesn't mean you have understood everything. It doesn't mean you are fully enlightened right away. It just means that you have developed the eyes of enlightenment and that from now on you will start looking differently at reality. So somebody has been doing that, either if they, transform themselves very, very fast, or they've been doing it for a very long time and become stable in their view, is called an enlightened being. And a fully enlightened person is someone that is never flinching. So to go back to our little stories, Sivamati, the princess, who died peacefully in the fire, actually died in the fire of a jealous wife. So that's the first topic maybe I'd like to explore. Jealousy. Why do you think people, including ourselves, get jealous? Where does jealousy come from?
Insecurities of one's own self.
That's a beautiful answer. Fear of loss, you said?
Yeah.
Right?
I would say the ego and the need to want something.
What was the question? People get jobs?
Where jealousy comes from originally or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but is the origin of jealousy?
Yeah, the ego, I would say, and the constant desire to want things.
It is an unequal partnership between you and another person.
Care to elaborate a little bit more?
A sign toward a loss of respect, a differential between yourself and another. Jealousy is a sign that you and your level of commitment, in whatever level that may be, as deferred from, well, your friend. Must be a friend. Wait, yes. Stick it in.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else with a take on jealousy?
I think it's based on fear, like many other things. It's basic instinct.
All right. Hey, that's very interesting answers that will allow me to sort of cut through and go straight to the Buddhist point of view on this. So,
Fear of loss as you travel down a road beside somebody else and their road differ. Though though two will and must be visual travel road when the roads separate. And a fear connect with a loss, possible loss. How that strikes you, how it strikes your body. Human, how but a heartbeat. How it can control you walking and separating down a different special and feeling jealous. Can destroy what is meant.
I have a little bit trouble understanding you, Edge. Your sound is cutting a bit for me. I don't know if you guys can hear him all right, or if you have the same experience.
It's like cutting off.
Yeah.
It's quiet, but I could hear him.
Yeah. So it's a sound problem there. But as I was saying, we can cut straight to the chase there, because those that have been in the Sangha for a while know that Buddhism sort of starts where you are born in this world and you come from your mother's womb, and for the first time in your life you experience separation. You are separated from another being, and all of a sudden your food comes from external sources, your light comes from external sources, your water, experience all kinds of sensation. And this is, in Buddhism, the birth of illusion, that you are separated from the rest of the universe, which of course you are not, because you are in the universe, you are part of the universe, you are made of star stuff, stardust. Okay? But from the moment you are born, you start losing perspective. And not only do you lose perspective, but the world sort of becomes something that competes with you. You could be asking for food, but you have no guarantee that you will be getting. Or you don't know how long you'll have to cry as a baby before mom notices and gives you food. So you start feeling that the world can be a little bit of a cold place and a bit of a dangerous place. So that's where you start building your ego personality, your identity. You start thinking of yourself as something separate. You learn that you have a name. You learn that you have hands and you have legs and that you can move in the world. And so you construct this idea of I'm like this and I'm not like that. But most likely, you wonder if you have what it takes to survive in the world. So all of us have sort of that basic insecurity of am I complete? Am I enough? Can I make it in this world? And this is aggravated by the fact that humans, unlike other animals that can walk 5 seconds after they are born, remain in sort of a larva state until they're 18, 20 years old, where their parents consider that they have taught them everything and are ready to release them in the world. So, if you're 35, you spend close to 20 years nurtured and 15 years on your own. It's normal to have doubts. So, since we feel incomplete, since we feel like there are holes in our being, in our personality, and in who we are, we try to fill those holes with many, many things. Some do it with possessions. Some try to build muscles. Some invest in beauty products. Some get a good car or a good job or a good reputation. Some become saints just to fill that gap and to feel that they're worthy and enough. So we all have our own little strategy. Some people just like to distract themselves away. So they start gaming or using drugs or watching movies or whatever makes them mindless. And that's how they deal with it. But others will simply get jealous. Others will see that, oh, this person is more beautiful than me, or they have more possessions than me, or they are nicer than me, or for whatever reason. In this case, in the case of Sivamati, I would guess that the second wife was getting more attention from the prince or from the king, and that Sivamati wished that, not Sivamati, but Sivamati's rival wished that she got that attention herself. So she got jealous. She tried to get the people around being angry. It didn't work. And then she was so angry that she desire, when it is frustrated, like now my desire is to have revenge on you. But if that desire gets frustrated, it often turns into anger. So she got angry and decided to set the castle on fire. And what the scripture says here is that Sivamati understood what she was going through, because the three poisons in Buddhism are ignorance and desire and anger. So she basically acted in sequence here, and Sivamati could see that. So even though she was burning alive, she could not hate the person that had attacked, that had condemned her, and died peacefully. Now, it sounds like almost impossible, but if you have seen the Free Tibet protests over there, I don't know if you guys were in contact with that, but some monks actually set themselves on fire to protest the invasion from China. And they would basically sit in meditation peacefully right there in the middle of the street, burning alive, without a single word about it. Just as a demonstration of their resolve and as a sacrifice for the nation, which I'm not sure is a very good idea. If you can avoid burning alive, by all means do that. But they were following those saints of older times, and I guess died as martyrs. So jealousy. Any questions about that bit, guys? Does that make sense to all of you, what we've just expressed? Yes? All right.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the second one. Prince Mahanama, which talk about a sacrifice there, right? He's the one who said, okay, I'll remain underwater, free my people. And he tricked the king by putting his head underwater. He tied his hairs around the roots and basically
This is showtime.
drowned himself. Yeah. So he drowned himself in there, and since he stayed underwater, the king had to honor his word and let everybody go. So I guess here you have really this idea of self-sacrifice, but also this idea that a human life is precious, and that the death of one facing the prospect of saving maybe thousands is not that bad. So definitely here we have a Bodhisattva. For those who don't know what a Bodhisattva is, it is an awakened person who decides to work for the enlightenment of all. Instead of becoming recluse in a cave and just practicing peacefully and living like a hermit, they decide to go back into the world and help as many people as they can, to the cost, oftentimes, of their own suffering, because they know better than to expose themselves to drugs, for example. But if you want to help drug addicts, there's a good chance you will be surrounded by that. So there's also a risk you might fall into it yourself. So the Bodhisattva are those, I would call them peaceful warriors that decide to go and help people with their real life trouble there on the battlefield. And then we had Utpalavana. So who preached, it was the nun who preached the Dharma while wounded and died. The Buddha, actually the list of Dharma masters that kept on teaching on their deathbed is impressive. The Buddha did it. Many Zen masters did that as well, and now we have Utpalavana who did it as well. Why do you think Why do you think she wanted to give one last teaching before she died?
As we are in
How does that make sense? Sorry, Malcolm.
I'm saying that we are actually eternal beings. We do not own the bodies. We do not own nothing. So passing from one body to another is just natural.
That's a very good observation. She was not scared of death, right? She was already just like the Tathagata, right?
Fearless.
Yes.
I'd
This
say
is a quality that we will find later as well.
I'd
Yes,
say
Jasper?
maybe sometimes they do the teaching at the moment of dying, because most of the time during a moment of dying, people are getting emotional and could lose their values or lose what's important. So it might be important at that moment itself to bring back awareness. What's it all about, even during such emotional state as losing someone.
Well, yes, if there's a sacred state of being, dying and being born are probably two of them, right? Where something very special is happening. And of course, if you want to make an impression, to teach on your deathbed should leave pretty lasting memories of you. There is a practice in Tibet as well of people that self-embalm. Basically, they predict the exact day of their death, and they eat a combination of different foods, nuts and roots and poisons over a long period. and it preserves their organs and their skin. And when they die, they get buried and they don't decompose. And that's sort of the same idea there, that it brings 50 years afterward, they recover the body. And then it's sort of a way for the monk to make an impression, to achieve some sort of faith, so that people will heed his teachings, read what he wrote, and so on. It's a very extreme sacrifice again, but it's still being practiced in very small amounts today.
In
Why
this
else would-
matter,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just in this matter, is it not less about not being scared of death and continuing to speak about what you believe, but more perhaps accepting that you are going to die, but your teachings can live on in passing them on even in your last moments, and that the torch stays lit?
I think that is very beautifully expressed, Razak. Yes, I would agree that this is the aim right there. So you know that the words of the Dharma can help people much better than your actual physical envelope, and that it's more important to pass that and give those tools to the people around you than to have them crying for your bodily departure, if you will. I used to believe much before I learned about Buddhism, that if you lived a great life, people would remember you fondly and the things that you did and so on. And that could be your life after death, actually, if you rejected everything else. Just how long your memory lives is sort of your paradise, if you will. But at the same time, if you had done very terrible things, people would remember you badly for a long, long while, just like Jack the Ripper, who people still talk about, or biblical figures that were sort of carved in stone forever. So knowing this, it sort of follows, if you value the word and the teaching, that you will use your own life as a catalyst and as a vehicle before and after the moment of death. So yes, that's pretty much what I was thinking about that. How about the bandit and Gulimalia, who went to the Buddha all bloodied up because he had been beaten by the people? Said, "Hey, it's okay, I deserve it. I don't care if I live or die now. I'm just here and now." What do you think
Well,
we can get from that?
I definitely recommend him not to go back to the village again, for sure.
Although, if you let people yell at you and beat you up and everything, at some point they get bored with that as well. So he might be able to exhaust the bad feelings and repay his karma, his karmic debt. So there is definitely a teaching about karma in here. People conceive of karma in a very simple way in the West, I find. Whereas they see it sort of as a boomerang that you throw, and if you did bad things, then it's going to come back and hit you in the back of your head. And if you did great things, then you get to catch it. More or less, that's how they figure the mechanics of karma is. But what if you came from a country that did terrible things decades ago? It's possible when you meet people that they will still talk to you about that. What if you come from a very dishonorable family who has a reputation in your neighborhood? You will definitely pay some of that karmic debt as well, even though you have nothing to do with it. What about the weather that we're experiencing right now because of generations of humans and the way they've been treating the earth? And not just the weather, the environment, if you will. can have been quite transformed by different eras of development. So karma goes farther than just me and what I do. And actually, I'd say it's about responsibility, not only for my actions, but for the actions of the entire humanity. In each of us is a saint, and in each of us is also a bandit. And when you recognize that you're maybe you have a fraction of a percent of yourself that is a bandit. But if you recognize that this thing, if it had been watered and cultivated and if it had been grown, you could have become just as bad as this guy. If you recognize that in you is the capability to hurt, to steal, to maybe kill, then you cannot really judge, and you can understand why you would be judged as a bandit, why people would be suspicious of you, why people would blame you. So taking responsibility in Buddhism is sort of extreme responsibility. You take responsibility for you, for the people around you, and even for people you don't know. Ultimately, you accept that the deeds of humanity are just a reflection and a multiplication of who you are in different flavors, in different orders, too. And so this guy sort of said, okay, I've acted badly before, they beat me up, that's fair. They could keep on beating me up. I don't really care anymore what happens to me in this life. I'm just here, and I'm going to dance with it any way I can. And that's what Angulimala teaches us, this karmic sense of responsibility. And then we had finally Modgalyayana, who sustained blows and died without flinching. So those that know me a little bit more intimately know that this word here that is called Shoshin. Shoshin is a mind state in Zen that means beginner's mind. So it means that you come here with an open spirit, an open heart, ready to receive. And that's why we chose that name for this world. But there are 4 states actually in Zen Buddhism. You have this one, that's Shoshin. There is also Mushin and Zenshin, and there is Fudoshin. So Fudoshin is the unshakable heart mind. Is when events don't manage to destabilize you anymore because of the way you look at them, because of how spacious you became, because of how peaceful you are. And that's sort of what Galyayana is demonstrating there, that he is so deeply rooted in his practice that as his bones are getting crushed, his flesh is being cut, and as he's being killed, he's basically able to go with a smile, a peaceful smile, to his aggressors. And I guess in Christianity is Jesus on the cross saying, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they're doing." And it's also present in other religions, but this idea there is that it doesn't matter how bad the aggression, it simply doesn't get to you. Actually, you start seeing it as a sign of weakness. When you see somebody yelling or using their fists or acting aggressively, slamming doors and throwing objects, you just see that they have lost their composure. They're not doing something more, or they're doing something less. They are done using their intelligence and their sensitivity. And by recognizing that, then they turn sort of into an animal or a clueless child. And then how could you be mad at a clueless child or at a cat, that doesn't know the ways of enlightenment? So you just instantly on the spot forgive that and are not invited. So Mudgayana is teaching Buddhism. And then Moshin is, well, let's not get into that. That's another discussion for now. United States. So I guess that's it for our saints today. Would any of you have a reaction or a question to the lecture or the commentary or your first experience here with the Sangha before we move into another meditation session? Yeah, did you like it? Thank you. Thank you. For the regulars, sometimes we speak about our week a little bit. Anyone with something to share that you'd like to discuss? Right. Well, you guys are pretty quiet today.
Conversation after.
Yes.
There's so
What
much
would
to
you
think
like?
about. Like, this is sorry. This is my first time here, and just this has given me so much to think about, putting so much into perspective. And it's interesting seeing the. I've been doing Kenjutsu or Buddha-jutsu for a while, which is like the samurai way of the sword, and I was one of our most senior members who has a dojo in London. He started off as a Christian pastor, and he went to Japan to learn how to meditate, and he was quickly pointed to one of the great senseis at the time, with the intent that if you want to learn how to meditate, it is the same as learning the way of the sword. And he learned about Buddhism and spent years training, and now he's one of the main senseis in London. And that was just so profound for me, which has probably led me here more than anything else. There's a lot looking into these stories from Shinto Buddhism or just full-on Buddhism that people, which at first seems like people just being self-sacrificial to some bizarre end, but looking at it, trying to understand the idea of these people having some higher knowledge or enlightenment, that it just brings out the perspective, maybe the pieces that I've been missing in looking at this. I would still like to know more, so I'm definitely going to be coming back.
Awesome. Well, of course, I'm not, entirely focused on Kenjutsu. Actually, I'm doing my best not to get in any specific traditions. I try to stick as much as possible with Hinayana and Mahayana, but the first and second turning of the wheel, because after that, it gets colored by the country, the practice, the rituals, and I don't know them all, and I really don't want to get into that. What's important for me are the teachings that speak to the heart and to the mind. But I'll tell you this about Kenjutsu. Have you ever read the book of Five Rings by the Japanese swordman Miyamoto Musashi?
Several times.
Yes. That's a masterpiece. That's awesome. It really explains how to use your awareness and your meditative state in combat. And but it also, he ends up at the end of the book, if I remember well, I read that a long time ago. He ends up being a painter and a calligrapher. So what he learned through sword to being a master swordsman, he applied to the fine arts in the end, and that's very interesting to me. What I also really like from the samurai culture and is this warriorship. I could say the same thing from the Shaolin monks, which are following an entirely different tradition, but this idea of to build the unshakable heart, the courage, the fearlessness is definitely part of my practice. I spent a bit of time in the Shambhala lineage. It was one of the first Tibetan lineage in America. And basically or Shambhala. It's a peaceful warriorship that I was trained at for the longest, and it does speak to me. So thank you for this testimony, Mr. Rasat, and everybody else that is not maybe into Kenjutsu. You should definitely try and grab a PDF online of the Book of Five Rings. I cannot imagine it would be difficult to find because it's a very old classical and certainly not subjected to any form of copyright anymore. So maybe
There's
do a
also
little
free
search, or if
versions.
I find
can
it.
testify to that.
Yeah, so maybe if somebody knows where to find it, maybe put it in the Discord and others can enjoy this book.
Okay, thanks. Interesting.
And apart from that, anybody else wants to say something before we move into meditation?
I had one thing last weekend. I have a updoor neighbor who is extremely confused sometimes, and now he saw that I was moving out because of it, I think. And now he came to me with, "Oh, can I have some stuff from you while you move?" And and he gave me some coffee to say goodbye, a goodbye gift, and he was like, "I have made so much trouble for you," and I'm like, "You don't even know how much trouble you gave me." I'm like, I'm very glad that I have this practice so that I don't get traumatized in the long run. Because if someone comes at my door at night and literally I don't know how to say it. He is really angry and he is just working on my nerves. Yeah, he was threatening me. And the last time it was with a gun, so it was really severe. And now when I leave, then last week I was at the cleanup, and he gave me more stuff. I'm like, you almost traumatized me. Why are you doing this? Yeah.
I think it's very interesting, Mara, because you had brought it up. I remember that a few weeks ago while you were wondering what decision you were going to make and everything, and so you make the decision of moving away, and then he wants to be friends. What do you make of all that? What's your conclusion?
That he is a man with a lot of trouble in his life. He said it was because of his separation with his wife, but I had this multiple times with him, so
right.
Yeah, it's really weird. So sometimes he's nice, and sometimes he's so confused that he threatens me. So
people, and it's important to believe in that as practitioners, to believe in the fundamental goodness of human beings. You can believe that people are fundamentally evil, but that will only cause distress. So it's better to believe that people are. So let's say he's a good guy, but he was having it rough with a separation, and maybe that doesn't cover all bases. So maybe he had it rough with something else before. And then basically whenever he's challenged, he cannot deal with his own emotions. He gets very aroused, very stressed. And then whatever happens in the vicinity, he basically bites and hits and yells at or threatens, right? Just like the guy who's had a very stressful day at work and he passes the door at home, and all of a sudden the wife or the kids are jumping on him and making requests and everything. He just gets angry because he doesn't want to deal with it and he wants to be left alone, right? There's the same sort of reaction, but with somebody that has much less dominion on their emotions, so somebody is ready to stay. So I like this little story, and especially that we've seen it unfold, because it illustrates that so very well. the guy is actually capable of love and sharing and of you. It feels hypocritical, I guess, when we are exposed to that sometimes. But you can see, you got to see his good side a little bit before you left, and he confessed that he was losing it. So in the end, he sort of told you, well, it's not you, it's me. I'm I'm a nutcase, and here, have my stuff to repair the damages I've caused. Isn't it a bit like that, Mark?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, no,
I also
not sure.
want I also want to see the good in people, because I already been here for a year, but some people make it very hard to believe, because sometimes he is very nice, and then sometimes he just takes a lot of weed or something and he goes nuts, and yeah, and it's terrible that other people need to deal with it. So yeah.
But typically, somebody that hurts others is suffering.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
Vice, you had your hand raised.
So
Sorry, Mark.
I think this is an important thing to kind of think about, especially like regarding your neighbor, is I think an important thing, you know, talking about the gray zone and not seeing through like black and white. I believe this is where it's important to see that in a way when we react to our own emotions that we're no different than his neighbor. There's nothing unique or special about us. And we when we react to our emotions in a negative way, that's no different than, you know, than how his neighbor reacted to him, because the stressors on the neighbor's life, you know, the separation from his wife, caused him to lash out at anyone and everyone around him, and other people, you know, do that too. It's not unique. It's not a special thing, you know. As you mentioned, you know, when we're born, we think we're unique and we're a separated thing, and the thing is we're not. And yeah, I think it is an important thing to come back to that, especially through mindfulness, so that we can treat that person with compassion, and especially using mindfulness and building compassion, so that when we are in that situation where we would become like the neighbor, where we would lash out, so that we can give ourselves space so that we don't become like them, so that we can see the world through a different lens and be able to spread compassion and love instead of things like anger and spite. And I think it brings back to the idea that everyone has capacity for good and love. It's just a matter of how they can deal with their own emotions and deal with, you know, how they see things.
Right.
Yeah,
one piece of advice I give often is not pay attention to what people say and do, but try to listen to how they feel. Try to see how they feel, even though they're not saying it. Because oftentimes you will see that, okay, there might be a gun, there might be yelling, there might be a bunch of crazy things happening, but that person is basically lost. And if you can stop them right in the middle and say, hey, how are you feeling? You know, or are you telling me that this is unacceptable for this and that reason? Sometimes it just breaks the cycle, and they start opening up and calming down. So it's very important to pay attention to the emotions more than just the outer manifestations. Connect with two hearts together. Right? Thank you all for your comments today. I appreciate it. I just say one more bit here because we're changing curriculum. So I would like you to have to think a little bit this week what topics you would like to cover in this new year. What I will probably do is either pick up another books or a series of shorter texts, and we will still carry on with the same formula. So we could go like in loving kindness direction, We could go into manifestation and how to transform the world and our experience of life with our resolve. It can be more about meditation. It can be, well, any domain of life, actually, that you would like me to cover. Please suggest in the Discord, and I will try and consider everything and build a program for our next 12 months. Other than that, right now, you probably know that I'm working now. VRCon is over. Some of my staff was involved in this, but now I'm working on JobCon. So we're bringing people to recruit a lot of people in the VR community and offer them awesome jobs and have conferences and everything. That's until the 23rd of September. But after that date, I actually want to sit with you guys, maybe structure a committee for the Sangha. I'd like to reach a point where we could have sessions every day led by different people, maybe in different styles. I'd like to bring back our guests, like the international masters that we were receiving occasionally before. There is also that piece of mountain that I bought by the ocean. So to develop a retreat place in a sustainable community. So I'll need help and inspiration from you guys in there as well. So if you feel like getting involved in any of this, definitely the help is welcome. And I'm looking to work collegially with a bunch of people, see where we take this, because it gets to the point now that the Sangha is growing all the time, and we have more and more people. Some come, some never come back, some come back after a while. I just want to make sure that everybody is well attended, that we provide rich experiences, that everybody can find a friend here and a peaceful place here. So if you want to help me build that, that'd be very awesome of you. And other than that, any questions about this new year?
So when are you going? You said once you were going to start with this book we have now, only at another time. Start over new.
Yeah, the book we have now is finished. So one thing I would like to probably use as a bridge right now are the 37 verses of the practice of the Bodhisattva. So that's a short one. It will probably last us 3 sessions or maybe a few sessions, but I'm going to work with the root text, which is just a few paragraphs. But if there are special subjects that you would like us to revisit, I'll happily do it. Oh, I also forgot to say that all the sessions that we've had so far that were recorded are being transcribed right now. So sort of this Buddhist 101 that I've been doing in the last year, we hope to get an ebook out soon that you can get to catch up on everything. And I guess if required, we could do another round and teach it all over again as well for this new year. I'd really just like your input about everything, guys. So if you have ideas, let me know.
Well, and I have the majority of the sessions on my channel, so they are sessions for days.
Excuse me, sorry.
What I'm doing is I'm using the videos that you got, Casper, and I'm putting them through Otter AI, and so it makes a transcription of everything that was said and it's classified by speaker. It's really awesome. And then we correct it and we reformat it into sort of a book format. It's a lot of work, but
yeah, because I think most of the average length of a video can be like 2 hours. Some of the length here are 3 hours, so that's probably a lot of. It's gonna be a Lord of the Rings book if you're not careful.
Yes, it saves a lot of typing. All right, then let's move into our little silent meditation practice. You can practice however you want. You can do some Vipassana, which I'm not going to teach today. Vipassana is discursive meditation. So it's sort of looking at different topics from the Buddhist truth standpoint, from the enlightened point of view. We'll get other occasions to do that. But right now, one way that you could practice it simply is just think about what was said, think about those stories, think about those bits that resonated with you, and try to explore yourself a little bit more. If you don't feel like it, just ride the music in your mind with your breath and just have a good 10 minutes of relaxation. So when the bell rings, in with a deep was this second session? You guys managed well without instructions? Everybody at peace now?
Yeah, a little sleepy, but managed to get through.
Yeah. All right, then you guys have a good evening or a good day, depending on where you are. And let us just stand and dedicate the merit of any work and any improvement we have gone through today. With Julia, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Could you read the dedication, please?
For the benefit of beings without exception, I dedicate without any reticence whatsoever all the merit accrued through virtuous acts to the incomparable expanse of totality.
Thank you, everyone. It was nice to meet
Thank
you.
you.
I'd like to say a little namaste in the end, which means I bow to the divine in you. Well, it really means just hello, but it's more poetic to say I bow to the divine in you. And let us have a great week and see you next time. We may exit in the same order as we walked in.